Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey watching Married at First Sight. Let's get to the show. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor who specializes in couples therapy for the past 20 years. As I always say in these shows, make sure you get a therapist if you need one. Don't rely on me to help you through YouTube. If you want a therapist, get one. You deserve it.
I mean, in the card, there was an apology. She finally apologized. She said, I know there's been a lot of miscommunication. I know I also hurt you, but I wanted to apologize. It was never my intention to hurt your feelings, but I'm sorry. I hope we can work on a friendship. But I don't know if it's genuine. I mean, she had so many opportunities to apologize, and here we are now, apologizing to me in a card.
So 2 thumbs up for Taylor for apologizing. I think most of us would agree that an apology was, a good idea, and that she, seemed like it was a heartfelt apology. Brandon seems, appreciative of that, and he is saying that he's not quite sure if he really believes it because it's coming in a card form, and it's after so many statements that she has said after the event that she wasn't sorry and that she feels completely justified. So what this shows us is that Brandon has had his trust eroded in her care of him or in her ability to take responsibility for something. But seems like the door is open here. So maybe if Taylor really intends on trying to get the relationship going back again, it sounds like maybe there's some potential there. Let's see what happens.
My trust for him. I literally... I'm trying to get rid of any animosity I have towards you. I don't know, I just feel like you just won't let things go. Every time I meet with you, I expect conversations to go better than they go, and they just don't.
I mean, every time we talk to each other, it just goes sideways. It always goes back to Panama, and it goes sideways.
I tried.
So it sounds like they're going right back into putting up walls, subtly attacking each other. Basically it seems as though Taylor is saying, every time I meet with you, I think you're going to be a nice person, and then you're not. That's not exactly what she's saying, but that's kind of what she's saying, or at least maybe that's how Brandon is taking it. And then Brandon is saying, every time I talk with you, I think you're going to let it go, and you always bring it back to Panama. So this isn't a good sign. I mean, the small little potential thread that was holding these two together might be severed in this moment. We'll watch.
Go back to Panama, Brandon. It goes back to just being a respectful person, and it goes back to you thinking that everything is something done to you or towards you.
So let me ask you a question. If I made that video that you made, the single video where you went out and just let the world know that you were single and all your followers, would you have been okay with that?
If you told me why, then yeah. I don't know. I just feel like you're very on defense, and nothing will ever be fine unless you're off of some defensive mode.
Okay, so it was an interesting question that he had, which is, if I posted a video, same video, how would you feel? Would you be okay with that? And then she says, yeah, I would be okay with that if you told me why you posted it. So maybe that's true for Taylor. But maybe what that is telling Brandon is, okay, in this card, you're apologizing for the video, but it almost seems like you feel like I'm being dumb for being hurt by it because you just said that you wouldn't have been hurt by it. What Taylor might have said is like, well, I wouldn't have been hurt by it because I do this sort of stuff on social media all the time, and I'm sort of used to that world, airing my laundry on the internet. So yeah, I wouldn't have been as affected about it as you were. But I understand why you were upset about it because not everyone lives the way I do, and I get that. So that would have maybe helped to bolster the apology that apparently she was trying to make. But anyway, it looks like both of them are putting up their walls, and this is just going to get really ugly. I think for Brandon, he has a hard enough time trusting anyway, and the video really pushed him over the edge. And unless she really establishes that she is 110% sorry for it, the impression I get from him is he's pretty set in his ways. And so I don't think this is going to go well.
I don't really do anything with any intention on hurting people.
It just felt like you were trying to send a clear message to me and you were trying to get up under my skin again, and it didn't really feel fair.
We already discussed these things, and then we should just be talking about how we're gonna move forward. I'm letting things go, and I'm just moving on and being friends. That's all we can do. Because right now, I don't think we're friends, but maybe we can get there.
So she wants to be friends. I thought maybe she was trying to get back together with him. She wants to be friends. Okay. Why? I mean, does she really want to be friends with him? Because maybe she does. Maybe she genuinely wants to be friends with Brandon. I have a hard time imagining that that's true. The way that Taylor feels about Brandon, it doesn't seem like she would want him particularly to be a friend. And also, I'm guessing she has a lot of friends. So why would she want him? The only speculation I would have is that the producers are pushing her to start something up again because they have more episodes to shoot. That's the only guess I have. I think Brandon is much more of a pragmatist when it comes to this sort of thing. And I'm guessing he's going to be like, look, I'm sorry that I'm rejecting you right now, but I don't think we're good as friends. I don't think we're good as a married couple, and I don't think we're very good as friends. So let's just let bygones be bygones. Let's be friendly. But I'm just guessing that that's what he's going to say. Let's see.
Honestly, I don't know what to think about this anymore. This has just been.
Do you want to be
out.
friends?
No. I just want to move on with my life. I want to cut all of this and be done with it. This has just been a cluster F, and it's stupid.
Right. And each individual here is free to decide about that, to be friends or not be friends. Each of them are right, meaning that each of them has the right to have that preference. She wants to explore friendship. He doesn't. I think that's pretty typical and normal for both of them to have that variance. Some people want to be friends with their exes. Some people don't.
I didn't get into Married at First Sight to find a friend. I got a decent personality. I'm pretty sure I can find friends. I got into this to find my soulmate. So this is a big slap in my face, and it sucks.
So since you don't want to be friends, where are we just done?
I don't know.
Well, now that I don't understand, because she's basically saying, so if we're not friends, then we're basically done, right? Because that's the logical conclusion. And then he says, I don't know. Now, maybe he is still unsure about pulling the plug on the marriage and getting a divorce, but it doesn't seem like he's unsure. So why wouldn't he just say, like, yeah, I guess that's what it means. It means divorce. I mean, he seems pretty clearly in that direction. So I wonder why he would say, I don't know. Maybe he is like, well, let's take one step at a time. I just rejected her on the friend thing. Maybe I'll bring up the divorce thing later. I don't know. Let's see what happens.
I'm glad we were able to sit here and have this conversation on TV. I don't really know what to say.
I offered my piece.
I'm not good at reading minds because I think that mine is lost.
All right. Well, I am going to get out of here.
I'm not good at reading signs, I just wrote
Cool beans. Have a good one.
It's the first time.
So, that was a healthy conversation. It's rough and it's sad and it's difficult. But under the circumstances, I think they handled it very, very well. That's good. It could have been much worse. We could imagine that conversation going a lot worse than it did, and it didn't go there. So that's good.
I've received an apology for her. She couldn't even say it to me. My wife is a narcissist. She doesn't see anything wrong, and she has a problem with admitting when she's wrong.
There's nothing wrong with calling someone a narcissist because that's not a clinical term. It's just a descriptor, like that person's mean or that person is fun. Or it's not a diagnosis. To say someone has a narcissistic personality, now we're getting into my world, and that is a very specific disorder that a lot of people don't really understand. I think research found something, I can't remember the exact study results, findings, but something like half of clinicians have difficulty recognizing narcissistic personality disorder, or any personality disorder for that matter. So it's not only too complex for lay people to understand, but it's too complex for maybe half of clinicians in my field. it's something that you have to study. You have to treat a lot of people with narcissistic personality. You have to read a lot of books. You have to get a lot of supervision. You have to spend years studying it. So it's a specialty of mine, and that's why I know about it. But anyway, he's not saying narcissistic personality disorder. And I just spent the past minute bragging about myself, I suppose. But I want to get the word out that say narcissist or that person is narcissistic. You can say that. But try to stay away from narcissistic personality disorder because that's a particular thing. But he has a claim that she's a narcissist and that she cannot apologize and take responsibility for her behavior. Now, maybe Brandon has special knowledge about narcissistic personality. I don't know. Some lay people do. Maybe he has a mother who had narcissistic personality and he's talked with many therapists about that. So it's not like lay people can't have specialized knowledge in that. But anyway, but let's evaluate that for a second. So the show only shows us extremely limited information, and there's no possible way anyone could diagnose someone on this show with a personality disorder. And the people on the show, they choose what they show the cameras. So it's not the real them. They know they're being filmed. It's not like they're being filmed without them knowing it. So, but if we were just to look at the behavior that we've seen on the show, does it show some red flags or some slight indications for narcissistic personality? Well, narcissistic personality is based on the assumption that one is worthless. I know a lot of people out there have a hard time with that, but that's what it is based on. Take it from me. When you're mistreated, when you're abused, when you're neglected, or all the above, as a very young child, we're talking 1, 2, 3 years old, the child has a choice, a number of different defenses they have available to them, one of which is to adopt the fantasy that they are perfect and that other people are stupid. And to adopt the fantasy that they're perfect means they have to constantly uphold this notion that they are superior to other people in a number of ways. And as they prop up that fantasy, that false, sandcastle, it distracts them from the fact that really deep down they know they're worthless beyond worthlessness. So that means they just feel completely empty and broken on the inside, and alone and neglected and rejected and wrong and everything. Just feel terrible about themselves. So they spend a lot of time, 24/7, propping up this fantasy, not only for other people to give them narcissistic supply, but also for themselves to distract themselves, because they want to look in the mirror and they want to like what they see in the mirror, because that distracts them from what's beneath all that. So for Taylor, is it possible that she has at least some of that condition? And it's on a spectrum. So you have people with 100%, and you have people that are on the 5%, and you have people in the middle. So what red flags might we see? Well, she's on Instagram a lot, which is a very, very small indication, because a lot of people are on Instagram. I'm on Instagram. So, there you go. Now, might that indicate a slight tendency towards extroversion or a little bit of narcissism? Sure. A little bit of narcissism isn't pathological. It's just sort of a personality trait, if you will. So being on Instagram, we'll just add that to the list of maybe a slight indication. The fact that she had a really hard time accepting responsibility and apologizing, that's a pretty big indication, actually. Because remember, when you're mistreated and you're made to feel worthless, it's often because you were criticized when you're 2 years old. You're doing it wrong. You're a bad kid. Messages that you're bad. And forevermore, because you're trying to uphold that veil and that fantasy that you're perfect and superior, and there's just nothing bad about you. In fact, there's not only nothing bad about you, you're better than everyone on the planet. Anytime someone criticizes you, it goes right to your traumas, because when someone criticizes you, this notion is out in the air that you're not perfect, or at least someone doesn't see you as perfect. And so that threatens that veil, that threatens that fantasy that they're perfect and superior. Someone out there has a criticism of me. Well, I have a number of choices available to me. I could listen and accept it, but then the fantasy has to go. The fantasy is just gone. If I'm not perfect and superior, then that whole fantasy has to go away, and then I'm looking into the abyss. So I can't listen to them. I can't accept. This is all subconscious. I can't listen and accept that. So what do? Well, I could attack them and say, no, 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 you're the wrong one. Or I could just deny it. Just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. She did show some signs of that. Does that mean she's on the narcissistic personality spectrum? No, not necessarily. A lot of people have a hard time taking responsibility, especially when they're on camera. Maybe we don't know the full story. If we knew the full story, Taylor's actions would seem much more rational. So who knows? Do we have any other red flags? Well, going on a reality TV show is a slight little red flag of being on the narcissistic personality spectrum. It at least indicates that you don't mind being on television. You don't mind everyone looking at you. You don't mind being the center of attention. Because even just being on a TV show that is being broadcast to everyone on the planet is one thing. But it's another thing to have just cameras pointed at you, right? You have producers and cameras. Everyone's looking at you all the time. I mean, imagine, we don't see the cameras. They see the cameras. They're just sitting there. Imagine just sitting there having a conversation with your husband, and there's 3 cameras and light people and sound people, and everyone's pointing at you. If you've ever been in that position, it's actually kind of nerve-wracking. Like right now, I'm just sitting alone in my office, and there's a webcam that's pointed at me. And it's not very intimidating because at any time I could just stop the recording and walk away and erase this whole thing. But there have been times when I've been interviewed by several people, sound people and cameras and stuff. I don't like it. I'm just like, this is too much, attention on me. I don't like that. So might that be an indication of narcissistic personality? Yeah, maybe, But again, it's not a slam dunk for sure. When I diagnose people with narcissistic personality, I typically take 5, 10, 20 sessions with someone who actually is willing to tell me their inner experience, willing to tell me about that worthlessness that they feel on the inside. That's when I can really get a good idea as to the conceptualization of their personality. If I just see the veil, I'm not quite sure what's happening. So anyway, he said narcissism, and I thought I'd just comment on that. Maybe there's more data. Let's watch.
And I can't be with someone who can't admit when they're wrong. And when I did whatever I did in Panama, I took ownership. I apologized. I got on the defensive quickly. I apologized to production. I apologized to her. I apologized to everybody that was involved. And here she is making mistake after mistake, and she's not owning up to any of those mistakes, and it's frustrating. And
so that is actually kind of a good metric to have, honestly. Is when you are with someone who cannot apologize for their behavior, that is a pretty big red flag for troubles to come. I apologize all the time. I do stuff at work. I was sort of a jerk to a colleague of mine. She's in charge of this computer thing, and I was getting real frustrated with it because it wasn't working perfectly. And in a public meeting on Zoom, and she's new too. I've been at Antioch for 23 years. She's brand new. She just started, 3 months ago or something. And I got jerky, meaning I was a jerk. And later I just emailed her. It's like, sorry for being a jerk. I got a little hot and I was frustrated. I went and looked at the computer thing again. It ended up working. It was user error that I was being dumb with the thing. It's not your fault. It was my fault. I like to apologize. I love to apologize. It just releases everything. It's like, oh, okay, now I feel better. I feel like the world is right. And I also really appreciate it when people apologize to me. So I really value that, and I consider that to be a pretty big indication of compatibility and of a trust, a relationship that you can trust, a person you can trust. If you're with someone and they just refuse to apologize, that's going to be hard. And I feel like people don't focus on that enough. When you're dating someone in the first 6 months, I feel like a lot of people focus on a lot of different things, which, some of which I might agree with, some of which I might not. But I feel like people don't talk enough about, well, how good are they with apologizing? How quick are they with apologizing? How thoroughly do they apologize when they do apologize? Do they just send a card and then kind of contradict the apology? Or do they really lay it on thick and say, I'm sorry, this was my fault, here's my reasons, it's not an excuse, but I did that and it was wrong and I shouldn't have done it and I'm going to try not to do it again. Do they really apologize, and do you really believe them? So I would think about that. And if you're listening to me and you have trouble apologizing, it's not because you're a bad person. It's because you probably have traumas of trust or something, and you deserve to heal from those so you can apologize.
I don't know if I can be with someone like this.
Just say anything. Say you hate. Say you hate.
Now, I'm not saying that Taylor is a bad person for not apologizing, and I'm not saying that Taylor is a bad person to be with. I'm just saying, separate from that, trying to gauge someone's ability to apologize is a good thing to look for. And in yourself, look into yourself. How easy is it for you to take responsibility and apologize? A lot of people will look at Taylor, Brandon might look at Taylor and say like, well, she's refusing to apologize because she's really into herself. I'll tell you, I've been on a journey in my almost 50 years on this planet. And when I was younger, I had a harder time apologizing. As I age, it's much easier for me to apologize. Why? Because as I age, I go to a lot of therapy and I talk about a lot of things and I do a lot of self-work to heal from my past and not be so ashamed of myself. The less shame I have about myself, the easier it is for me to apologize. It's so easy for me to apologize when I'm not ashamed of myself. When I'm ashamed of myself, it's almost impossible for me to apologize. And I'll have, different moments. I'll have shameful moments. I can't apologize, and then it'll come down, and then I can apologize. So people don't apologize usually because of shame. It's not because of stubbornness or something. It'll look like stubbornness, but deep down it's usually shame.
Just say something.
Hey, if you haven't subscribed below, that'd be cool. If you can like this video or like all my videos, please, I like that. Also, you could hit the bell because then you get notifications whenever we have new episodes. Also, comment below. What do you think about what's happening in the situation? And also, if you don't know about it, I have a podcast that I've been doing for 12 years. It's just an audio podcast. You listen on your earbuds, and you can subscribe to the podcast on your phone on a podcast app if you don't know about those things. You can also become a patron of the podcast. That's how we know that you like what we're doing. All right. Take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.